First and foremost, I like to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahawashi, Bahashim, Rakah, Kwadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone that rule well, and a sincere salutation to you, Akim and you, Akwat, that believe in all sincerity. This can be another edition of comparing spiritual things with spiritual things, and today I have a photograph, as you see here. It says, Yahawashi is seen by many as the most masculine person in history because he combined unmatched strength with perfect love. He faced suffering and crucifixion with courage and unshakable faith, standing firm against powerful leaders and refusing to compromise his mission. He protected the weak, served others with humility, and gave his life to save humanity. His leadership was marked not by pride or domination, but by sacrificial love and moral authority. He has inspired and helped billions of people across history, motivating them to live with faith, courage, and compassion. For millions of believers, his example shows that true masculinity is found in the balance of courage, resilience, compassion, and unwavering commitment to truth. Okay? So I thought this was interesting. Okay? And, I agree. I agree. Yahushai, displayed much resilience. Okay. You know, he truly is a balanced power. And, we have to be balanced too. Okay. You know, many people think that, believing in the Most High is weakness, that it's, for lames or squares. But, truth be told, not anybody can, adhere to the standard of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. Okay, this is a very disciplined walk, and it's balanced. You can't be. Matter of fact, we'll start there. You can't be over righteous. This is Ecclesiastes, 7:16. Be not righteous over much, neither make thyself over wise. Why shouldest thou destroy thyself? Okay, so, when you're over righteous, okay, or, you're over wise, you could destroy yourself. You could, start to tip the scale to pride. You could, and vanity. It says, why shouldest thou destroy thyself? Right, because, the scriptures say, unlawful balance. Let's see. What is it? A false balance, Proverbs 11:1, is abomination to Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, but a just weight is his delight, you see? So you cannot tip the scale too much to one side, okay? That's abomination to the Most High Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. We must always have, a just balance, okay? So back in Ecclesiastes 7, and we'll start 17. Be not overmuch wicked, neither be thou foolish. Why shouldest thou die before thy time? Right. So, you can't be too wicked, because, truth be told, all right, even Paul, spoke about it in Romans the 7th chapter. Oh wretched man that I am, who shall save me from this body of death? We know that sin lies up in us. We know that we're not perfect, and, you have to know yourself. That's what the scriptures say, know ye not yourselves, lest ye be reprobate. Okay. We have to learn, to have a balance, because Yahushua was balanced. Okay. It says, reading this again, He combined unmatched strength with perfect love. He faced suffering and crucifixion with courage and unshakable faith, standing firm against powerful leaders. Okay. Yeah. He was strong. He loved. He had suffering. Okay. He was long suffering. And he's still long suffering now. Yahawashi, scriptures say he would devour at once. Okay. When he's called, by the Most High, because the scriptures say that Yahawashi does not know when he's going to return. Only the Most High knows. He would devour at once. Okay. So he's long suffering. This is the time that we all come to repentance, and we were talking about that at camp. Yahawashi, he's truly, he is enduring a lot. He's watching sin and all manner of folly and wickedness go down right as we speak. Okay. So, that's being godly. All right. But I want to get a couple of accounts of Yahawashi and some scriptures on what we must, tap into. All right, let's get and this is probably not going to be no order. All right, we'll start here. John 15:13. It says, "Greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends." You see? So, Yahawashi, the second spirit created, he actually laid down his life for his friends. It says, "Ye are my friends if you do whatsoever I command you." You see, we got to tap into that. Being able to, or willing to lay down our life for the brothers, for true believers. Not just anybody can do that. Not just anybody's willing to do that. That's especially for this cause. Okay. In the world, when you really look around, people are they're really ready to stab each other in the back. They're not going to lay down their life for one another. They're not going to stick their neck out for one another. On the contrary, it says, "Henceforth I call you not servants, for the servant knoweth not what his Lord doeth, but I have called you friends, for all things that I have heard of my Father I have made known unto you." You see, so Yahawashi gave all the knowledge the Most High gave him. He made it known to the disciples. You see, so we're friends if we do what Yahweh Bashim Mashai commands of us, man. He comes and sups with us, okay. And to be and for Yahawashi to be your friend, you don't really need any other friends. All right, moving on. Let's look at this. This is John chapter 18 and 36. All right. At the top it says, Judas betrays Yahawashi. But this is John 18 and 36. It's, Yahawashi before Pilate. Okay. That's a point I want to make here. 36. Yahawashi answered, "My kingdom is not of this world. If my kingdom were of this world, then would my servants fight, that I should not be delivered to the Jews. But now is my kingdom not from hence." You see? Yahawashi was able to stand in the face of authority. Pontius Pilate was, the Roman authority at that time. But listen what he says. "Pilate therefore said unto him, Art thou a king then? Yahawashi answered, Thou sayest that I am a king. To this end was I born." Okay, so Yahawashi is using wisdom. He's telling him, you're saying that I'm a king, but I was actually born for this purpose, to come into the world, to lay down his life for the Israelites, so that they may, have a second chance to come back to the Most High. Okay, because the Most High had turned his back on Israel, and Yahawashi was like a sacrifice to appease the wrath of the Most High. Okay, he was born for that cause. That was Yahawashi's mission. It says, "And for this cause came I into the world, that I should bear witness unto the truth. Everyone that is of the truth heareth my voice." Okay? And I bring this out because it says here, what does it say here? "Unshakable faith, standing firm against powerful leaders and refusing to compromise his mission." He protected the weak, served others with humility, and gave his life to save humanity. You see, he came in to the world for this cause. Everyone that hears Yahawashi's voice hears the truth. So Yahawashi is the author and finisher of our faith. He is who we go to. Okay, he's an example. And there's gonna come a time. The scriptures speak about. You know that take no thought. Okay, for what you will say, but the Lord shall give you. What to say in that day, and whatever you say is going to be a testimony against the Gentiles. You could get hemmed up, and you may have to speak between kings and governors. Okay, I mean the men of the Lord is going to be put on display. They're going to persecute those that fear the Lord. They're going to be blasted all over social media, all over TV, the internet. If these guys, turn these guys in. Okay, there's going to be a great persecution on the saints, but hey, the saints are going to stand firm. Okay, this is John 19:8. When Pilate therefore heard that saying, he was more afraid. Now let me go up. This is the Jews answered him, we have a law, and by our law he ought to die, right? Because the Jews delivered Yahawashi up to Pilate. It says, because he had made himself the Son of the Most High. When Pilate therefore heard that saying, he was the more afraid. Okay, so you got to put yourself in that, at that, at this scene, so to speak. All right, the Jews were like, we have a law, and for what he's saying, he ought to die. He's saying he's the Son of the Most High. When Pilate heard that, he was afraid. So you could already see the authority, the presence that Yahawashi had to have commanded. You see, that masculinity, The scriptures speak about, real quick, and then I'll come back to this. All right, let's, what does it say? The Yahawashi. 19 and 21. For I feared thee, because thou art an austere man. Thou takest up, thou layest not down, and reapest, thou didst not sow. Okay, Yahawashi was an austere man. Okay, the Lord wasn't. When he was he wasn't playing games. All right, he was about business, man.
Strong's G 840. Austeros.
Right. It says of mind and manners, harsh, rough, rigid. Yeah, the Lord, he wasn't one to mince words. He was straight up and down. What you see is what you get. Okay, so going back, Yahawashi is basically us speaking to Pontius Pilate. We've been reading, a couple scriptures, but let's read it again. It says, and went again into the judgment hall, and saith unto Yahawashi, whence art thou? But Yahawashi gave him no answer. You see, he asked him, where are you from? Yeah. And he took Yahawashi back into the headquarters again and asked him, where are you from? But Yahawashi gave no answer. It says, then saith Pilate unto him, speakest thou not unto me? Knowest thou not that I have power to crucify thee and have power to release thee? Yahawashi answered, thou couldst have no power at all against me, except it were given thee from above. Therefore he that delivered me unto thee hath the greater sin. So, Yahawashi is letting him know right then and there that he didn't have no power. Okay, whether he had the power to crucify him, ultimately that was the will of the Most High. It was given to him. That was the will of the Most High. That was his lot in life. That's that had to happen. Who had the real sin was the Jews. That they betrayed Yahawashi. They had him crucified. All right, but just to see the resilience of Yahawashi makes us. I mean, these are the scriptures say all things that were written aforetime were written for our learning. So we have to learn from these things. Okay, it says, He protected the weak, served others with humility, and gave his life to save humanity. His leadership was marked not by pride or domination, but by sacrificial love. You see, greater love hath no man that he that layeth down his life for his friends. We're friends if we do whatever Yahawashi commands us. You see, you know, we have to look at Yahawashi. We have to look at these scriptures, this word, and have that righteous balance. You know, knowing that we're masculine, but we're also protectors. You know, we're providers. We're set up to lead the nation through the spirit of Pari Yahawashi. That's what the man was created for, and that's something that, you know, it's funny. I had a talk with my foreman, and it was interesting because even he said that. Even he said that the other day. He was like, you know, a lot of people think that being aggressive makes you manly, all right, or being cruel, you know, being an asshole, and that's the opposite of what a man is. See, a man has a balance. You know, a man knows when to judge. A man knows when to, you know, but a man also knows when he has to have mercy, you know, compassion. You see what I'm saying? You have to have the both. You cannot tip the scale. We just read that, you know, a false balance is an abomination. Yahawashi is the perfect example of this. Okay, let's get this. Let's see. Really? This is Sirach chapter 2 and 18. Really? All right, it's just saying we will fall into the hands of Yahweh, Bashem Yahawashi, and not into the hands of men. For as his majesty is, so is his mercy. Okay? And you want to fall into the hands of Yahweh, Bashem Yahawashi. You don't want to fall into the hands of men. Because men are cruel. Men will leave you to die. That's how men are. But see, Yahweh Bashem Yahawashi, you know, even with him, his hand is stretched out still. You see, the scriptures say that the Lord gives us less than what we deserve when it comes to our punishments. We truly deserve death. All right. Okay, so let's get this. This is Psalms 18 and 25. With the merciful, thou wilt show thyself merciful. With an upright man, thou wilt shew thyself upright. With the pure, thou wilt shew thyself pure. And with the froward, thou wilt shew thyself froward. You see, Yahawashi, you know, he's the ultimate. What does Jake say? What's that saying that Jake be saying? Matching energy, right? Jake be saying that Yahawashi's he matches energy. Okay. With the merciful, he gonna be merciful. If you're upright, he gonna be upright. If you're pure, you're gonna show yourself pure. But if you're froward, he will show himself froward. Okay. Let's get this word froward.
Strong's H 6141. Ikesh.
Yeah, he will deal with you
Ikesh.
in your twistiness, your distortedness, your crookedness, your perverseness, your pervertedness. The Lord will deal with you in that, you know, to give you the recompense according to your hands. And we got to remember that, you know, we got to have a just balance as well. Okay, this is Proverbs 25 and 28. He that hath no rule over his own spirit is like a city that is broken down and without walls. Okay, and cities used to be fortified with walls on the outer side, on the outer edge, around the perimeter, and they would have people on the watchtower watching so nobody would invade the city. Okay, but if you can't rule your spirit, if you cannot control yourself, you're like a city that has no walls. You have no defense, you know. NLT, a person without self-control is like a city with broken down walls, right? Anybody can come, violate you, can cross you, can say anything, can do anything because you don't have that rule over your spirit. okay, over yourself. We don't have that control. You see, and we have to have that. What does the scripture say? This is Galatians 5:23. But the fruit of the Spirit, 22. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith, meekness, temperance. Against such there is no law. You see, temperance.
Strong's G 1466. Ekrateia. Ekrateia.
Self-control, the virtue of one who masters his desires and passions, especially his sensual appetites. You see, you got to have self-control. We got to have self-control, I should say, okay, of our desires, of our passions, our sensual appetites, because they'll destroy you. You know, the flesh, ruling over you, it'll destroy you. The scriptures say to mortify the deeds of the flesh. You got to have rule over your body. You got to have rule. The scriptures tell you in 1 Corinthians, the 9th chapter, if you don't control yourself, you'll be a castaway. 1 Corinthians 9:27, but I keep under my body and bring it unto subjection, lest that by any means, when I preach to others, I myself should be a castaway. You see, you got to keep your body under subjection. Okay, and that that subjection is talking about ruling over your body, ruling over your spirit, ruling over your passions, your desires. That's having that masculine frame, that balance. Okay, because you're not emotional, you're not just all over the place. This is Titus 1:8. It says, for a bishop must be blameless as the steward of the Most High, not self-willed, not soon angry, not given to wine, no striker, not given to filthy lucre, but a lover of hospitality, a lover of good men, sober, just, holy, temperate. You see, there's that word temperate again. You see, the sober. Let's look up sober. You got to have your mind about you.
Strong's G 4998. Sophron. Sophron.
Of a sound mind, sane in one's senses, curbing one's desires and impulses, self-controlled, temperate. Right? You gotta curb your desires. Yeah, you might want to do something. You might desire something. You might have your impulse, right? Your first reaction, but you gotta you can't be reactive. You can't be reactive. In certain situations, in all situations, you're only responsible for how you react. You're not responsible for what other people do, only how you react. Okay? Because, truth be told, we're all going to get judged for what we do, not for what others do. All right? Let's go back. All right. Titus 3:2. We'll get to the point. To speak evil of no man, to be no brawlers, but gentle, showing all meekness unto all men. You see? These are the things we must do. Speak evil of no man, to be no brawlers, but gentle, showing all meekness unto all men. Okay? It doesn't say get, fighting, being rough, kicking ass and taking down names. It doesn't say anything like that. You see? And see, that's what this truth does. It bridles the man. It bridles your tongue. It bridles the body. You truly step into a different type of frame, which a lot of people, they'll take it as weakness. They'll take you being meek or you being humble, gentle. They'll take it as a sign as, you're somebody to play with, but that's far from the case. You see, I mean, that individual's there. And only when he has to be. Only when he has to be. Okay, we'll get one more. Then we'll end it out. This is James 2:13. It says, For he shall have judgment without mercy that has shewed no mercy, and mercy rejoiceth against judgment. You see, so you have to know You have to know, okay, when to be merciful, okay, in judgment. All right, because if you don't know how to be merciful, when judgment comes upon you, there's going to be no mercy. You see, so it's just a couple scriptures that came to mind that I saved. Lord willing, this was edifying. Yahawashi, he was a very masculine. He had a balance of him. There was, gentleness, but there was also very much austereness. Okay, so these are some of the attributes that we must have. All right, Lord willing, it made sense, and you were edified. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahawashi, Bahashim, Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone that rule well, and a sincere salutation to you, Akim, and you, Aqua, to believe in all sincerity. Shalom.